This is the part two of the contractual phrases we are using in day-to-day letter writing in contracts. To have a better understanding of what this phrase is and where it has to be used actually. So the 11th phrase is, it is our position that. So this is a stronger phrase which establishes your stance on an issue. Strong, but still it's very professional for defending your rights. So there is an example here. So it's our position that the delay caused by the late site access is not attributable to the contractor. So the position is being set here, which is very important in the factual evidences in later stage of dispute resolutions. The next phrase is, we are of the view that. See, when there is a disagreement, maybe it is gray in the contract and we have to disagree with that with the other party, and it's a very softer and still a professional way of disagreement of any misinterpretation, and it's less confrontal. So for an example, we are of the view that the additional works fall under a variation. So this is usually from a contractor to an employer. So when an employer requests for an additional work from the contractor and without a formal variation, or the employer stipulating that it is under the base scope, and this is a very softer way of opening a discussion. And this is looks softer, but it positions the disagreement. So it's a professional rejection of a claim or statement. Phase 3, which is we respectfully disagree. It keeps the tone polite even during the disputes, but this is a very powerful phrase that positions yourself being polite. For example, we respectfully disagree with your assessment of the contractor's performance. It looks like it is from employer to the PMC or the engineer on the contractor's performance. Phrase 4, we must clarify that. So this situation or phrase is being used when a situation comes that there is a misunderstanding or misinterpretation on a particular issue, and one party decides to give a better clarity on that, and this phrase is used that we must clarify that, because sometimes the arguments or the discussions are built on unknown assumptions or misinterpretations. So maybe you might have sensed that in the middle of a discussion, and once you have sensed that, you have to clarify that. So this is a statement. For example, we must clarify that the revised schedule was submitted on time and approved, because there might be a discussion saying that employer delayed the approval from the contractor. So the contractor or the employer clarifies that there is no delay in the revised schedule approval. It was approved on time. Phrase number 15, we wish to emphasize that. See, this is a very politer version, and it highlights the key points you don't want to be overlooked. Right? Sometimes it might be a very important obligation by one party, or sometimes it's been very carelessly dealt by the other party. So in order to bring their focus on it, so this is a very professional and polite way. For example, so we wish to emphasize that all the work was completed within the safety guidelines. So these are actually used when there are more negative points or negative side flaws being accused on one party. The other party can highlight and emphasize that what are the positive things that has been achieved within the time period, sometimes even beyond the contractual requirements. So at that point, this phrase will be used. Phrase number 16, we already gave a chain link from the past phrase that it is important to highlight. So it brings attention to the facts or contract provisions relevant to your argument. This is very professional because it highlights the contractual provisionals or evidences or documents that should not be overlooked. So it is important, for example, it is important to highlight that the delay in approval is directly impacted the critical activities. This is a very important phrase being used, especially in terms of claims. Phrase number 17, based on the contract provisions. So it brings attention to the facts or contractual provisions relevant to the argument. See, we might have done some obligations which is not very open or black and white in the contract, but it can be related to certain contract classes inside the contract, because the contracts are always weighed based on the intention behind the risk allocations, because sometimes it may be black and white or sometimes it may be gray. So what always plays an important role is what is the intention behind this contract class and what was the intended risk allocation behind this contract class. For example, it's important to highlight that the delay in approval directly impacted the critical activities. This is not the right, I think this is a typo error. So you can write that based on the contractual provisions, you would like to bring to your attention that these are the additional mitigation activities that has been done by the contractor, which is an basic obligation of the contractor, because in most places, the parties misinterpret that mitigation is not a mandatory requirement, but mitigation is the mandatory requirement under the contract provisions. For the avoidance of doubt, it's a very classical phrase used to prevent the misinterpretation again. It clears the potential ambiguity. So it is like double highlighting a thing that we would like to highlight this for the avoidance of the doubt. So it's very commonly used it's a legal phrase than a contractual phrase. For example, for the avoidance of doubt, this letter serves as a notice under 20.1. You might have not written that as a notice, but later during arguments, the other party might say that there was no proper notice from your side. It doesn't mean that the subject doesn't have a notice. It will not become a breach, or it is not that it cannot be considered as a notice. So in future, sometimes it can be clarified that there wasn't notice from our side. For the avoidance of doubt, that letter serves as the notice under the clause 20.1 when the time bar clauses are very serious. Phrase number 19, please be advised that this is a formal instruction or update usually used for notices or directions. For example, please be advised that the revised delivery date is now 2025. Phrase number 20, this is a very common phrase used in everyday life. Kindly note that it is a polite way to remind or to inform or to point out something. So it is kindly note that is softer than please be advised. So that is the very mild difference in the language, and you can feel that, right? When please be advised is bit aggressive than kindly note that. So for example, kindly note that the site access remains restricted until the safety clearance is obtained. Thanks for watching. We are ending this part 2 here, and we have 3 more parts. We'll see in the upcoming videos. Thank you.